everybody. This is Rick Rains with Files for AudioFiles. I'm talking to Jordan Sokel, right?
Yes, sir.
The frontman for Annapolis-based band Pushing Strings. Jordan, it's an honor and a privilege to talk with you today. I've been a fan for a while.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Honor's mine, my friend.
I think so, yeah. For people who may not know, can you give a backstory synopsis of how Pushing Strings came to be?
Yeah. So the band started when I was attending Salisbury University, not too far from where we are right now. We formed as like an acoustic duo kind of thing. It happened kind of in a funny way. For the summers, we would go and all pitch in and room in a house together. So it was like a house of 11 people, and one of the other guys in the house played guitar, and I played guitar, and it was just around when we first started writing our first songs, as separate songwriters, and we decided to team up and start making money.
Can you talk about your influences?
Yeah, man, I got a bunch of influences. I like, I'm a big Bob Marley guy.
Me too.
Yeah, Bob Marley's, if I could go back and see anyone, I think it would probably be Bob back in his heyday. But I'm also like, I have a pretty vast knowledge of like classic rock. I have a pretty good knowledge of like classic soul, classic blues, and like early blues, kind of like folk style, sort of finger picking kind of blues.
I know the band has gone through different iterations. How have those additions and subtractions, as far as the lineup of the band, influenced the sound?
A lot. So I started almost 20 years ago, and we've had several different drummers since we started, and drummers are what changes the sound of your band a lot. Yes. There's a very personal touch to playing the drums, and so I would say that it's gone from like more of like a sort of like percussion sort of stripped down kind of thing to more like rockin', like with our current drummer, Justin. He has such a good, versatile, like sort of swing.
I was noticing that when I saw you guys here last time. That was one of my questions. I was noticing a very swing feel for his drum sound, and specifically his approach as far as it being a lead instrument.
Yeah.
So that's what I was noticing.
Yeah, so that's definitely affected the sound.
Yeah.
And, we've just in the last year added another element to the band, which is keyboard and guitar, which is Mr. Austin Day, which is has kind of like sonically glued everything together, and it kind of takes it to a different place, and it could expand it a little bit more. So
talk about when you realized you wanted a keyboard in the band.
Yeah.
So
I play keyboards poorly, but I can play it enough to come up with like little lines and like hooks in the songs, and like I've always done that. But when we played as a trio, which is for a long time we played as a trio, that stuff was sort of cut out for our live setting, and now it's back in times times 10, because it's you take a good keyboard player and who plays the primitive lines that I know how to play and takes and puts his own spin on it. So yeah.
Bob Marley's Natural Mystic was one of the 4 songs you covered on Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I think that paired well with the reggae stylings of It's Better Now and Back Where I Started. It's evident that you guys choose covers that showcase your versatility. So what's the thought process behind picking songs for a particular performance?
A lot of thought goes into it. I didn't used to put a lot of thought into it because I used to just kind of go off the cuff. But I just sort of pick covers that speak to me. And I think that I could sort of put my own spin on and also keep a sense of like doing the song justice. And with that type of thing, like that sort of reggae sort of skanking thing is just something that like I said, I was a Bob Marley nerd, so it's kind of ingrained in me. So that kind of stuff has come through in my songwriting. So it's kind of natural for me to like throw it back to my influences.
And skank was a big theme running through my notes preparing for this interview. So
yeah,
I definitely hear what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So my friend Scott introduced me to you guys a while ago, but your performance at the Ale House this past Black Friday was my first time seeing you live. I was enamored with how your guitar playing and Justin's approach to the drums, specifically as a lead instrument, contributed to a swing feel. Can you talk about in studio versus live and the particular differences you see in both settings?
Sure. Live is a little bit more untethered, not as controlled, and there's a little bit more of you're picking up the energy of the room a little bit more, and like, that's pretty much the difference. Is like, and then you only get one shot at it live.
Yeah.
In the studio, you get multiple shots at it, so it approaches the way that, or it affects the way that you approach it a little bit differently.
When I was preparing for this interview, I noticed on Spotify that Pressing Springs was involved in something called Free State Workshops. Can you explain what they are?
Yeah, so Free State Workshop was it was like a YouTube channel, and like it was an idea that a guy named Robert McFreshington, who he used to be in a band called Bond and Bentley, but he's recently started other iterations of his musical career. He started it and was producing these videos and these recordings himself, like just sort of like out of the love of the local music scene, and it was just a cool time in the scene because it was getting a lot of views, and like he did a really good job of getting a lot of local traction for people, and for free, and out of the love of the music.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So since the band has been celebrating 10 years of a couple albums, I thought that for the rest of the interview we could look back at the band's first 3 albums: 2012's self-titled, 2014's Life of a Tree, and 2015's Oh the Source.
Yep.
Starting with the self-titled, the first track on the album is Wake Up Song, which has a profound lyric. As a boy I laughed a lot. As a man I think about what I got. Every time I hear that, it means something different to me. So I wanted to ask you, that being 13 years ago, what does that lyric mean to you now as opposed to back then?
Ooh, good question. I think at the time I wrote that, which you're telling me when it was, and that makes sense. 13 years ago. I probably wrote it 15 years ago, when I was a younger man without kids and trying to figure out life and trying to figure out what makes me happy. And just it was that song is very reflection based, you know, and like looking back on my life and looking back on like, you know, as a kid, and you know having kids now and seeing how their brains work and seeing how they react to the world, where they're not thinking about other things that adults are thinking about. You know, they don't have that weight on them about having to produce for yourself, you know, like everything's sort of like handed to you, and like so there's a big that line is just about the difference of being you know, a kid and then being an adult, and in that transition period trying to like figure out how to cope with that.
Like you were saying, I perceive it to be a very reflection-based song.
Totally.
So, yeah. All the songs, Winter's Way, Pictures, and Paradise Lost, somebody else is singing lead. Who is that?
Yeah, that's my good friend. His name is Joshua Kachura. That's who I started the band with back when I was in college, and he, in the first, what's funny is we actually have 2 more records from 2008 and 2010 which is half and half, but the reason why they're not up is because it's kind of murky water with the songwriting being half and half, and it's a very different sound than what we're doing now. So I've made the choice to sort of like not push that stuff as much. So he's still a good friend of mine. We were in each other's weddings, but he chose a different path to go instead of the risky, some might say dumb path of being a professional musician. That's him.
Cause you guys were a lot more mellow sounding when he was on vocals, so that's why I was wondering.
Yep.
The note I wrote after listening to this album was talking about how you fulfill genre blending on individual songs, and as we move into 2014's Life of a Tree, the same can be said for it too. For instance, the electric guitar embellishments on Live Wire Gold Simple remind me of Could You Be Loved, and the harmonica, coupled with the fact that it's a song about how catchy a song can be. I thought that was reminiscent of Blues Traveler's Hook. But where Hook is more comical, your approach in Live Wire is I'm going to prove myself. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. That song is about going into places and making a decision to play in my own music instead of just trying to try to do what everybody else thinks you should do, and it's kind of about proving myself and proving to myself that I can go and play the songs that I've been working on and writing myself, instead of trying to do what they say you should do, is like, do what the audience wants. But the audience doesn't know what they want. So you got to give them what, you got to show them what they should want.
Are you actively thinking about genre blending during the process of writing songs?
Am I actively thinking about what's the word?
Yeah, genre blending.
Genre
like
blending. Genre blending.
Yeah.
No. To give a short answer, I'm not. I'm usually just trying to follow my ear and my heart, and I don't usually think too much about like what I'm putting together.
Are you aware that the tapping to keep time on the title track actually sounds like the chopping of a tree?
The tapping of a tree? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's funny because that was a wooden board that I made into an instrument out of like a wine crate that I put a pickup on, and very crudely done. But yeah, it turned out to like sound like a piece of, like For Life of a Tree.
Yes.
It sounded like a piece of wood, yeah.
Was making Life of a Tree a root song intentional? Going back to the tree part, was making it a root song intentional?
No. It wasn't. It was just sort of like, I just kind of, I didn't really think twice about what it was. You know?
Another lyric from that song for me was, "So keep your cutter and your sheath, for my arms, they have no sleeves." Is that about staying grounded through music stardom, or is it life advice about protection?
It's that line, keep your cutter. Yeah, that was about, as a younger man, I wasn't as mellow as I've become. And, I used to have a little bit of a sharper edge to me. So that, I think that was time telling me that it's time to like chill out a little bit. And, it's just kind of me reminding myself that, to be a little gentler.
After Stormy Story Song comes this killing time, which combines your guitar skills with your lyrical prowess. The lyric that struck me from this tune was, "If I was a preacher or a dealer caught up in the streets, how will you act when you see me or when we meet?"
Yeah.
And the reason I thought this lyric was so good was because from the outside looking in, these are two seemingly opposite sets of people that could bring about a similar level of apprehension and fear of being judged. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. That specific lyric, I think.
And the overall inspiration of the song?
Yeah. That song is, it sort of explores like, your different, as I'm sure you realize, that your different experiences, you don't know what experiences you're going to be born into and deal with.
Yeah.
And it was kind of exploring that idea and that specific line about a preacher, who represents like a moral high ground, and the opposite of, a dealer or somebody who represents like a moral low ground.
Yeah.
Can both be good, and can both like sort of, in the end, there shouldn't be as much judgment. It's about judgment, I think.
Why did you feel It's Better Now needed a glow-up from the roots acoustic harmonica version that's on Life of a Tree to the soft rock reggae version on Most of Us?
I think I was just we paid a producer a lot of money to bring some songs to him, and I thought that was the strongest song, and I thought it needed a little glow up. I thought it was lacking something with the other version, and it was just sort of an idea that came about.
Oh yeah. We've been talking about mixing genres and profound lyrics for most of this interview, but from a listener's perspective, I think where those two things collide is on 2015's The Source. Probably the best example of what I'm alluding to comes from the second track, Something Strong. It starts like an up-tempo Eric Clapton song with guitar stabs that bite like Mark Knopfler, and a lyric that says, "We all need to haul, make calls, make change, stop saving face, and raise our children to believe, to relate." Can you talk about everything that inspired The Source?
Yeah, it's hard to like put myself back in those shoes, but as far as that specific song and those lines, it was just kind of a. At that time, I had felt like there was a societal sort of change happening to where things were getting a little bit meaner and more or less civilized, and like, you know, it's just basically a call for like unity and like starting to like, you know, try to be kinder to each other and teach our kids to be kinder to each other, you know. I think that whole record is sort of like that. It's about sort of, you know, I've, you know, not to get oddly, you know, weird and political here, but like, you know, I've seen like at the present time, you know, I've seen this sort of coming for a long time,
yeah.
And I've seen like the ugliness sort of like making its way into the, you know, the I don't know what you call it. I guess the just the vibe of the culture that we're living in, and so I don't know where I'm going with that, but I've felt that's pushed a lot of my writing, because I've felt that sort of outside like ugliness coming in, and like that, you know, sort of
kind of like a kind of like a call to action.
Yeah.
So when Scott told me to listen to you guys, the first song I heard was Full, and it's still one of my favorites. That song sounds like it comes from a personal place. What's the meaning behind it?
The meaning behind that one, I think, is like I've been prone to like sort of going through seasonal like dips in my mental, like, you know, feeling good, and, you know, whatever you want to call it, seasonal depression or whatever. And I was sort of coming out of a low place, coming out of that, and I remember I woke up in the middle of the night and I wrote that song, just sort of like just flowing, not really like giving a care of like what was driving the lyric. It was more like just off the top of my head, and it came out that way.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have for you today.
Yeah, man. That was great. Thank you, man.
Thank you again for doing this.
Thanks for doing all the research, man. You obviously have put in work, and I appreciate the care into this interview, man. It means a lot. Thank you.
It means a lot to me too. Thank you very much.
Of course, man. Hell yeah. Cheers, brother.
Thank you.